Today I just want to do a little day in the life of Exeter Prison. It was a place I spent a lot of time, not by my own will. It's a remand prison based in Exeter. It's right in the middle of town. It's a Victorian prison. It's massively overcrowded. It should be all single cells, but they've put bunk beds in there, bless them. So they're all two up. It's not a nice place to be. It's always uncomfortable, and the first thing you normally do when you wake up in the morning is you can smell your cellmate. That's the first experience you have. Normally their BO or their farts or their breath. It's a real roll of the dice as to what kind of cellmate you get. Are they going to be, someone who's quite volatile? Are they going to be banging the door and kicking off because they want to see a solicitor or something like that? Or, are they going to be quite cool and chilled and just want to get through their sentence? That's the kind of best person you really want. Someone who you can have a bit of a laugh with, share the experience, but not, piss each other off too much. So the day starts around 8 o'clock in the morning in prison. You can hear the staff wandering around. They start to unlock gates and doors and things, and it's never really that quiet in prison. You can always hear a radio. There's always someone talking or shouting out the window, something like that. So you're never really at peace in prison. It's one of the difficult things you have to cope with when you come out of prison is the quiet and the soft beds, because prison beds are always quite hard and uncomfortable. You imagine there's hundreds of people go through and sleep on these beds. They're not supposed to be comfortable either. It's supposed to be an uncomfortable and unpleasant experience. So when you get out of prison, the beds are always too soft and everything's always a little bit too quiet for you. It takes a little bit of adjusting, maybe a week to get used to it. So around 8:10, the staff will start to unlock all the doors. From my experiences, the only experience I can really talk from, I was in Exeter Prison. I had a range of different jobs. My last time there, I was gym orderly, so I used to go straight down to the gym in the morning. I'd go and grab some eggs from behind the servery, and I'd go down to the gym, and I'd make myself some toast with some boiled eggs, and I'd have my breakfast down there before taking a circuit class or something like that, or we'd have to be cleaning the gym. Other jobs down there in Exeter would be normally going down to the education block. A lot of people in prison can't read or write, or they may have had a disruptive or a chaotic childhood, which means that they don't have a great education. So the education in prison is normally at GCSE kind of level. There is a scope for you to do A-levels and open university kind of courses. You do get the funding for that as well. Exeter is more of a remand prison, so it's more lifers and long-termers that kind of do the open university stuff. So the rest of it is really just open at quite a remedial level. So if you've gone through secondary school, there's nothing really to offer you in the education system in prison. They even used to pay us, anybody who could read and write, they used to pay us every 3 months to sit a numeracy and literacy exam, because the prisons wanted to show that they were battling the numeracy and literacy problem by having all these tests that were passed. But what they were doing is they were getting the people who could read and write, and they were paying us £3.50 each to do these exams once every 3 months, just to kind of boost their numeracy and literacy scores in prison. The other job that's available in Exeter, if you're not sat on the wing, is the workshops. Now, the workshops are good old-fashioned workhouses. Basically, you just go into this massive room, and they've got big benches laid out like a Victorian workhouse with nuts and bolts, and you go up to the bench and you sit down, and basically you just put a nut on a bolt and you slide it up the table to another dude who puts the bolt in the bag with a bit of paper, and they used to get sold off to this tractor company, and every day you'd go in and there'd be a different thing you'd have to do. So some days you'd be a cog, and you'd have to put a cog in with a bit of greaseproof paper and slide it down the table, and the next chap would put the label in it for the shop, and they would go into a box that would be sent off to some tractor company somewhere, and we get paid about £6-7 a week for doing that. You're only working a couple of hours in the morning and a couple of hours in the afternoon, but it's still slave labour. They're still using prisoners to bag up goods that are going to be sold. So the human cost in manufacturing those items is eliminated through using prisoners for labour. If you're not down the gym, or if you're not in the on the wing, well, if you are on the wing, sorry, exercise comes at about 10 o'clock. Now, exercise in Portland, in Exeter Prison, is out on a yard. It's not a bad sized yard. It's not huge. It's maybe half the size of a football field, and it's got a concrete path around the middle and some benches around the outside. Everybody instinctively comes in and starts walking anti-clockwise. There's no signs up to say to do so. Everybody just comes in and walks anti-clockwise. You're not thrown out of the place if you walk clockwise, but everybody does look at you like you're a troublemaker if you start to walk clockwise. But it's a scary experience when you're on your own. You want to get out of the cell, so you want to go on exercise. This could be the only bit of fresh air you get while you're in Exeter Prison, because if you're not working, you're not on education, you don't really leave the wing, and you can be stuck in that musty cell. So 1 hour a day out on the exercise yard is a real relief. If you're in there over the summer, it could be the only bit of sunshine you get on your skin. Being in the prison cell, you don't often feel the breeze. And once you've had months of not feeling the breeze, it's a sensory deprivation that you can't understand until you've gone through it. And it's always, because once you get into a prison cell, once you've been into the prison a little while, you tend to go up the landing, so you end up on the top floor. They want well-behaved prisoners on the top floor, because that's generally the ones that can be seen from over the wall. So they don't want unruly prisoners at the top that can be seen. So it kind of works in your favour. If you're behaved, you can go up, so you can get a cell that's above the wall, so you can see out. And you see the trees blowing in the wind, but you never really feel the breeze because of the bars, and the windows don't open very much. So yeah, breeze is a real. I used to like it when I came out of prison, and I just stand in an evening. I feel the breeze running across my skin. But yeah, standing out in the exercise yards alone, because first of all, if you get on with your cellmate and he comes out for a walk, then you can just go around and have a chat with him, or if you know someone else, you can go and have a chat with them. But generally, when I was going into prison, I'd be going in on my own. I would have been caught doing something on my own and thrown in there. I didn't really know anybody I'm from 100 miles away from the prison, so there's no one real local that I know either. So occasionally I'd just be walking around on my own, getting a few laps in, and then I'd go and sit down, go and do a bit of sunbathing, try and stay away from any groups, or try not to look like a victim, so you don't get picked on or spied by the bullies. You're always trying to stick your chest out and look tough, but without trying to look like you're sticking your chest out and looking tough. You don't want someone to come and try and test you either. So it can be quite intimidating sitting out there. But again, it's a fishbowl. You've got to always be swimming. You've always got to be just sticking. Don't try and stick out one way or the other, and just try and, if that's not the game you want to play, you don't want to put a target on you, because you get found out in prison quite quickly, because it's a 24-hour game. You spend a lot of time in your prison in your cell, but that doesn't mean you're safe in there. The next neighbour can be banging on the wall saying, "Oi, come out to the window. You got, oi, come and talk to me." And you've got to hold your own at the window. You've got to be able to say, "Oh, what the fuck?" And they'll be like, "Hey, give me a coffee, give me whatever you've got in there." And if you don't, I'm going to come and fuck you up in the morning. And then people will be laughing, and it becomes a bit of a fucking zoo and a performance out the window. So, you've got to be able to hold your own all the time, and nobody's going to be ever there to protect you. The staff come and go. They're on shift. They might be working on your wing one week, and then they're working on another wing the next week. They don't care about you, and they're not going to be there to protect you. You have to defend yourself against these prisoners all the time. So, you have to be able to hold your own up, and you get found out quickly in prison if you are trying to be someone you're not. So if you're acting as a tough guy when you're not a tough guy and you can't back it up, you'll be found out quickly. And you'll have a very difficult time in prison. And it goes the other way as well, as in if you come across as weak, then you're going to get picked on. So you have to be strong, just in case anyone does try to pick on you, because then you can back it up quickly. And as long as you're violent and explosive, and people see that actually, it's really, really not worth picking on that guy, then you'll have a very hard time, because once one guy picks on you and they see that you're easy meat, then other bullies in the food chain come and get you as well, and you can find yourself quickly having a very difficult time in prison, just because you didn't explosively deal with the bully the first time. Then suddenly, 2-3 months down the line, 2 or 3 more bullies are now fucking draining you. It's not a very pleasant place to be, especially if you're doing long sentences. Now, so exercise. Exercise is a great time to be running around outside. You used to actually genuinely see people doing circuits, press-ups, sit-ups, running about. It's not a prison yard like you see in American films, with everyone sort of sat in their own corners by race. Occasionally you'll get groups of people who will sit regularly in the same area or the same corner, but it's not like they're holding the yard or anything. It's just that they're creatures of habit, or they find that a bit of fence a bit more comfortable than anywhere else. Nothing's territorial out there. You don't ever see that. But it is just a little bit of grass with a few pathways to walk around, and that's it really. You get called back in just before lunch, around 11 o'clock. You get banged away. I mean, when I'm saying banged away, you get put away in your cells. People from education and the workshop start to come back from work. The gym, if you've been on a gym session, you get weights or a little cardio session or football, something like that. Everyone comes back about 11ish. They serve up food about 11:30. This is an experience in prison. Food is all menu choiced, so you put your menu choices in at the weekend for what you want the next week. It's very canteen style food. It's slop. Mashed potato is all smash. Everything's low nutrients. When you see the chickens coming in, they're cutting the stuff off them. You got to think the food they're sending to prisons is the stuff they can't sell. They can't give it away, so they're sending it to prisons to fucking feed the prisoners. Everything's just the lowest quality. So when you come out, the rich food messes with your belly, and you have to almost ease yourself back into food, because big meals really knock you on your ass, and you find yourself having stomach aches from eating a curry or I remember a chili con carne. I couldn't get through a plate of chili con carne, and it really made me feel a bit odd, because just the richness of the food was just something I hadn't experienced for years. And it's just different when you see Jamie Oliver kicking off about prisoners getting better quality than school kids. It's really not true. It's really not true. So once you've had your lunch, you'll get your head down for about an hour and a half. Again, if you've got a cellmate, you've got to deal with them. You've got to fucking, whether they want to watch Neighbours, do they want to go to sleep, do they want to do a workout? Everybody's different. Everybody has different ways of dealing with prison life, and sometimes people just want to sit there and chat to you. They want to talk to you all the time, and other people just want to sleep all the time. One of my friends said to me that if you sleep an extra 2 hours a day, or no, extra 3 hours a day, then by the end of the week you've slept 21 hours, which is almost an extra day. It's almost 24, So we all try to do that. We all try to get as much sleep in as possible, and you become very good at just sleeping on the spot. So as soon as you've finished eating, you just go to sleep. You wake up as late as possible. So you just try and get that extra 3.5 hours of extra sleep in a day. So by the end of the week, you've slept 24 hours extra. That way, we were only doing 6 days in prison rather than 7. It was our little way of getting one up on them, I suppose. After lunch, after lunch was about 1:30. They'd start to come and get everyone out again for work, for lunch, for sort of the gym. It was for me, work and education again. Afternoons were a bit of a dead time in Exeter. If you're not doing any of those, you're in the cell. You sat there with a telly, just watching daytime telly. Homes Under the Hammer, all that kind of crap. Old Channel 5 films. The cricket used to be on telly when I was in prison, which was great for me because I like cricket, and you could just sit there from 9 in the morning till 6, 7 at night watching cricket. Again, this is great if your cellmate also likes cricket. If not, they're in for a bit, a tormenting time. With Exeter being a remand prison, you can quite easily have cellmates for a few days and then they move on, because they'll get sentenced and then they get shipped out to another prison, or they move on to another wing, or they get let out. Some people are only in there for a few weeks. They might get bail and go home again. So it's real revolving door of stuff. Where I was because I broke every bit of trust that was ever given to me. So they never let me have bail. They never let me do any of that. So I was always coming back. I was always what was known as like a longer termer, because I'd always be doing like 4-year sentences and things like this. So I would always get cleaning jobs. I would always get the jobs at the gym, that sort of thing, because I was becoming one of the old faces there, which used to annoy me at the beginning when you first come in at 18 and you see the same old faces getting the good jobs, and it just frustrates you because you have to go to education, where you have to go and tie nuts to bolts and stuff. But then the more you progress through prison, the more the staff get to see you and they know you and they pick you out for these jobs. So as I was a career criminal, I was starting to work my way up through the better jobs in prison as well. And being a gym orderly comes with a bit of respect, because everybody wants more gym. So everybody wants to be your mate. Everybody, you get your laundry done, you get your hair cut. Everybody's got time for you when you're the gym orderly. So it's really good. Now, so the afternoons in prison, if you're not going to one of the work things, it is quite boring. You'll sit there just watching telly. They'll let you out for about half an hour, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour in the afternoon, so that you can clean your cell and you can get on the phones, because you don't get out in the evening much in Exeter. It's generally only 1 day a week. That's really poor. In other prisons, you can be out every night, apart from Saturdays and Sundays. You're normally out for association, they call it, between 6 and 8 o'clock every night in prisons, apart from Saturday and Sunday. But in Exeter, it's because it's only a small prison and they haven't got too many staff, you find yourself banged up nearly every night. Apart from 1 night a week, you get association. But they do let you out in the afternoon. Now, this isn't great if your partner works or if your family work, because it's really expensive to ring a mobile. You literally watch your money ticking down by the second. Every penny was a second ringing a mobile. So, a quid goes quickly in prison. And bearing in mind, you're only getting £6. If you're working in the workshop, you're only getting £6 or £7 for the week's work. And then you're watching that, £6 or £7 just tick away. That's if you just put your money on the phone. You have to buy stamps, letters, deodorant, anything else, any snacks and food you want. That's all got to come out of that. So you have to rely on people sending you money in. Otherwise, you have a difficult time in prison again. So you get an hour to go out and clean your cell, hang around with people. This isn't table tennis time. There's no pool tables open at this time. It's just knocking around time. Again, this is the only time out you get you get your exercise hour in the morning and you get the cleaning hour in the afternoon. If you're not working, they're the only 2 hours you get out of your cell all day. You just sat watching telly the rest of the time. Tea time, they bang you up then around about 4 or 5 o'clock for the afternoon sort of bang up. You get another sort of 2 hour bang up then until about 6, when they start to let you out for food. Food, again, the evening is a bit like lunchtime. It's a canteen style slop. So you get some potatoes, you get mash, you'll get some just, again, cottage pie kind of heavy. It's all just heavy kind of foods that can be easily made in mass. You're talking about 600 prisoners in a prison. So they got to make 600 fucking portions of this stuff. So it's all scoops and slops and fucking the rest of it. It's not great food. Once you've done that, in any other prison you'd be out, like I say, then till 8 o'clock, playing pool, watching films, chatting on the phone, knocking about with your mates, getting a shower, things like this. But no, in Exeter you just go and bang up again and you're behind the door again for the evening. Occasionally they'd let you out for a gym, so that's again another good reason about being in the gym, as I'd be down in the gym every evening. having a session, volleyball, football, weights, circuit training, that sort of thing. So getting a nice job down the gym meant I was out every morning, every evening. I was out all the time. It was great. But yeah, it's fucking it's difficult for the rest of the lads. Evenings are difficult in prison. It's a long time on your own. I was used to being sociable and hanging around with people and knocking around with people on the outside, going down the pub, evenings when the life used to come alive. But it's a time for reminiscing in prison. And again, you're stuck with a cellmate. You're stuck within 4 or 5 feet of someone all the time, someone you don't know, someone who could have just been thrown into that cell. They're all emotional from just being caught and arrested. It's a remand prison. So they've come from a police cell straight into your cell with you. There was people that I got to meet who had been shot by the police with those big fat-ass rubber bullets. He went to the supermarket with a gun because he wanted to be killed by the police, but they shot him with a rubber bullet. So he has just come in from a traumatic, suicidal police standoff, and then, 12, 14 hours later, he's thrown in a cell with me. And I'm just sat there, wanting to do a few sit-ups and watch some scrubs, and I've got to deal with this guy now. It's not an easy situation to ever have to cope with, but you have to get through it, and we did. Press-ups, sit-ups, squats, cell workouts. You just end up doing them for ages. You haven't got a skipping rope. They don't give you any skipping. They don't give you any ropes in prison. Any belts, shoelaces. Well, they do give you shoelaces actually, but you don't get any ropes. So I would pretend to have a skipping rope. So I'd be swinging my arms around and jumping on the spot. Exercise in your cell is very big, but a lot of people get fat as well. You see people who go to prison and they come out fat. But anyway, that's basically a day in Exeter. It's boring. It's long, it's chaotic, it stinks, and you never know what's going to happen. With Exeter being a remand prison, there's a lot of fights, there's a lot of alarms go off all the time. You quite regularly getting scores settled because you've got prisoners who may have not seen each other for a couple of sentences or are suddenly thrown back into each other. It's a city prison, so you've got a lot of rivalries from the city. Maybe suddenly these two people are thrown in a cell together. They may have been, again, some, you may have stitched them up, or a lot of people in prison are scumbags, and they rob and snitch on each other, and a lot of scores get settled first thing in the morning, or any time when you are out of your cell. One of the scariest people I ever met in prison was a chap who had only one good working eye. So his other eye was that kind of glassy, dead, glazed over kind of looking thing. He was tall and a thin looking guy, quite wiry and sneaky looking. He was quite a worrying guy to be around. And I remember it was in the afternoons, and I was waiting by the end of the wing to get the lads to the gym. And we were just waiting for the member of staff to come down and open the gate, but they were caught up in something. And there'd been an altercation about a mobile phone. So someone had borrowed a mobile and then not given it back. Now, a mobile phone is a very rich commodity in prison. You can get a lot of money for them, and if you steal it or lose it, as this guy was saying he'd done, then that can hold some very high consequences. Now, the chap who lost the mobile, the guy with one eye had lost patience with him and had dished out some vengeance. I don't know what had happened, but he then just grabbed his bag and came to the gym to try and get off the wing to obviously eliminate himself from the suspicion when the staff find the guy that had been beaten up. But he was stood in the queue in front of me, and he was nervously sort of turning around and sort of looking about and stuff. And I noticed that all over his forearms was all speckled and covered in blood, where he'd beaten the guy or cut him or done whatever he had to do. And it was always a nervous energy. And you end up with a form of post-traumatic stress when you come out of prison, because you're around so many violent and dangerous people all the time who could quite easily do something to you for no reason at all. Sometimes people get taken hostage or they get cut or beaten just because that other prisoner wanted to ship out. A ship out meaning a transfer to another prison. If you're violent towards another inmate, then most governors will send you to another prison. And sometimes that's what an inmate wants. They want to be moved out, so they'll just beat up randomly another inmate so that they get kicked out of the prison, sent off somewhere else. And, essentially that's what they wanted in the first place. So I was always nervous about being around these violent people, even though I'd been violent to others in the past. It was never unpredictable violence. It was always retribution or something we needed to do. But this kind of unpredictable person, and I suppose him having one eye kind of made him more kind of scary looking and more villainous, more classic villainous looking. But that was one of the scariest moments I remember in prison, just being standing around him, and moments after he'd dished out this vengeance on someone. So yeah, prison isn't a very good place to be. It's not a place I ever want to go back to. It's a place I spent a lot of my life. It was my university. It's where I grew up. And it's where I'm sharing this education with you.